Hey everybody, today I want to talk about geraniums. And you might not realize this, but there are several different types of geraniums. And I don't mean just different names and different colors and different sizes. I mean geraniums with very different characteristics and actually look very different. So if you were to kind of close your eyes and picture a geranium in a terracotta pot sitting on a windowsill, you're probably picturing a zonal geranium, which would look a little bit like this. It's going to have that upward growth with the leaves and then the flower growing up above in a nice, beautiful little ball. This isn't actually a zonal geranium, I'm cheating, but it would have a look very much like this. And zonal geraniums, a lot of the varieties on the market, some of them have been available for over 100 years. Other ones come as kind of direct descendants of those. And so they're just really well known. They're exactly what you think of usually when somebody says geraniums. Now, there is another variety called the Iv Geranium, and the Iv Geraniums are known more, this one here is one of them, they have more of these lobed leaves. They have these great balls and balls of flowers, and then they also have more of a trailing habit. So they tend to be great for baskets because they kind of extend downward. And when they're fed properly and cared for properly, they will just cascade down, 2 or 3 feet. And so they're really quite beautiful. And a lot of people really get into their Iv Geraniums as well. But there is a third type of geranium because that I'm going to tell you about. There's actually more than that even. But I want to tell you about the interspecific variety because both those types of geraniums that I first told you about have some shortcomings. So the Iv geraniums, sometimes they peter out a little bit in the summer. The flower heads are, kind of a little bit more compact. And so they just, they're not always perfect. And then the zonal geraniums, a lot of times those go to seed really quick or they don't have as many flowers. So, they're not perfect either. But the new interspecific ones that have been around for the last couple decades are quite extraordinary. So they've taken the best of both worlds. So I'm going to show you kind of the difference between a regular Iv geranium and an interspecific. I don't have any zonal geraniums. We don't carry those because we've just found the interspecifics are pretty extraordinary. So let me show you the difference, and I think you'll see why we lean towards the interspecific. So let me flip the camera around. So here's a Iv Geranium, in our kind of standard 12-inch pot. You can see it looks great. It is starting to kind of cascade a little, but what we find is a lot of times once it heats up, it doesn't really grow too much. And then once it cools down a little bit more, then we start seeing growth again. And I have that right next to a interspecific, and when you look at the difference between the two, you can see number one, flower heads are huge, and these flower heads grow both upward and outward, and then it has that beautiful canopy of leaves, and the leaves are semi-trailing, so they will kind of grow upwards and around, which makes them a little bit different than a lot of the zonal geraniums, which would only be growing up. So this semi-trailing habit kind of gives them some competition, or puts them in competition with the Iv geraniums. And if you actually look, this interspecific is actually outgrowing the Iv geranium by quite a bit. Now, I'm going to tell you this too. What you might not realize is this one here on this side, there are 4 plants in that 12-inch pot. This one has 2. So you're looking at an incredible difference in the size of the plant as well. So those interspecifics get huge, the flowers are bigger, the plants are bigger, and now we do pay more for them ourselves, but when we can only have to put 2 in a pot versus 4, it really does make a difference, both in kind of how they look and in how many, plants and how much work we have to do with them. The other thing I'm going to tell you, we clean the Iv geraniums at least twice as much, if not 3 or 4 times as much as we do the interspecifics. The flower heads just last a lot longer on these interspecific geraniums. So it's quite a difference. And if you look over here, this is what the Iv geraniums look like once the flowers are spent. So once the flowers are spent, you do have to go down, and with all geraniums, you do have to do a little cleaning. So you just follow the stem down and just break it off. That's all you have to do to clean them. So it's not hard to do, but the less you have to do, the better is how we feel. And you do the same thing if you ever notice like a bad leaf or something like that. You just follow them down. They snap off. You don't need any special tools. You can actually do it as you're walking through the garden. But let me tell you, to be able to only have to do it half as often is just incredible. So I have to make a confession. So next year there is a chance that we won't carry the Iv Geraniums at all. You can see with those kind of interspecifics, and that's the Calliope version that we have. We have a couple others as well. It just makes sense to have those. And also Calliope is coming out with a cascading version. So it's the same kind of great interspecific, except it does have a little bit more of a trailing habit. So we're gonna give it a go. Right now, it looks like we have one color available to us, the violet. And if you've seen a violet geranium, you probably remember it because it's this beautiful magenta purple color, very unique, stands out really, really bright. So we're happy about that. There are other colors available, so we're working with our growers to see what will be available to us next year. And so I just wanted to kind of give you guys that heads up and also kind of let you know the difference in why we choose some of the plants that we choose. So with geraniums, you know, we don't use any of the seed varieties. Seed varieties tend to produce their flower, get their seed out, and then they kind of peter out because once they produce seed, they don't need to reproduce anymore, and they produce flowers so that they can reproduce themselves. So we want to get rid of those varieties that are kind of just done once they flower. We want ones that just keep flowering and flowering and flowering. So those interspecifics are great for that. So I just wanted to give you that update. Thanks for watching, everybody. And I'm gonna also show you outside, we have some of the Hardy Geraniums, and they're not related to regular geraniums, but actually those are the true geraniums. The ones that we have in here, these Zonal, the Ivy, and the interspecifics are actually, what are they, Pelargonians, which I don't see that name catching on anytime soon, but that's kind of more the proper term for the geraniums that we normally think of as geraniums. We actually aren't quite right on when we name them geraniums, but hey, that's what everybody knows as a geranium, so that's what we're going to call them until Pelargonian takes off. So I don't even know where Pelargonian came from. We're gonna have to get a horticultural historian out there, figure that out. But anyway, I'm gonna show you those, what do you call it? The Hardy Geranium real quick, and because it's such an easy plant to grow. So this is a Hardy Geranium, and this is a pretty mature one. So this is kind of shrub size, but you can see it gets a beautiful, this one gets a nice kind of magenta colored flower, and it actually had a full flush where the whole thing was covered in flowers about a week ago. Those have kind of spent, but there's gonna be another flush coming soon. So you can see there's actually some blossoms kind of in the wings waiting to come out, but it's a super low maintenance plant. We don't really do anything with it except a clean up in the spring. So you don't have to worry about this geranium. It kind of takes care of itself. So now I'm going to go back inside and show you some of the other colors of the geraniums. So here in greenhouse one, these are actually Pelargonians, not geraniums, but this is like I think it's Tango Pink Splash. So pinks are always beautiful. This one here is more of a salmon color. Always a nice one. And then there are always several varieties of red. So this is kind of more of a bright scarlet, has a little bit of an orange red to it, whereas this is a dark red or a red. Those tend to have that really nice rich color on it. I think this is another salmon. They also come in white. So there's always a couple of those. Now this is a petunia, but that's the color of the violet. I have to look to see if there's any violets around. So we're gonna come back over here. Here's an orange. Now this is the Mojo Orange, and it's a pretty good orange. It actually has kind of that fluorescing orange kind of color. This one here, I think that's a Crimson Flame. So you can see it has kind of a little bit of a bicolor. This one over here is a coral. I'm sure on the camera it's hard to tell the difference, but when you're seeing a coral next to a dark red, and that dark red is much darker in person than it is out here. I'm trying to see if there's any other colors I can show you. Another one, this is more of that bright scarlet. I think I've kind of covered, oh, there's a nice pink one back here. Oh, here's a nice lavender. So that's a lavender geranium. This one is a dark pink or a rose. I'm sure it's probably the pink or hot pink. So just, there's a lot of variety. I wish I could show you. Let's just see if there's any. Sorry, we're almost out of annuals here, but we do have a bunch of hanging baskets. So we've got some more of the pinks, some more of the lavender. I was hoping I could show you one of the, oh, I see one. It's the violet. This is what the violet looks like. So this is the one that I know we'll be able to get in the Cascade next year. At least we should be able to. And so you can see it's almost got a purple magenta fuchsia kind of color to it. Really a stunning type of geranium. So if you want something that's going to really show off from across the driveway, this is definitely a color to do it. Again, another one of those coral ones, another pink splash. This one here is the white splash. So a little bit different. So anyway, I just wanted to show you all those. I'm almost out of daylight, so I'm gonna have to say goodbye, but thanks for watching, everybody. Talk to you all very soon.